My roommate woke me for an early morning swim. Then she smiled and said, "I didn't bring a swimsuit." At 5:17 in the morning, someone shook my shoulder hard enough to pull me out of the deepest sleep I'd had in weeks. "Wake up." I opened one eye. My roommate, Emma, was standing beside my bed, already dressed for the beach, her hair tied into a messy bun and a strange smile on her face. "What happened?" I mumbled. "Is the apartment on fire?" She laughed softly. "No, I want to go swimming." I stared at her. Now, the sky outside was still dark. "Emma, normal people go swimming after breakfast. Good thing we're not normal." I was about to turn over when she added something that made me sit up. "And I didn't bring a swimsuit." I blinked. "What?" She shrugged, trying desperately not to laugh. "I said I didn't bring one." For the past 6 months, Emma and I had been roommates. We had started as complete strangers. She was organized, cheerful, and somehow capable of turning even the most boring Tuesday into an adventure. I was the opposite. I liked quiet mornings, strong coffee, and knowing exactly what I was doing before I did it. Somehow, we worked. We had rules. No borrowing clothes without asking, no bringing strangers home without warning, and absolutely no complicated relationships between roommates. That last rule had been my idea. Because somewhere along the way, I had started feeling something for Emma that was becoming harder to ignore. She was my best friend, and that was exactly what scared me. I looked at her. "So why don't you have a swimsuit?" She smiled. "Because I wasn't planning on swimming." "Then why are we going?" She hesitated. Then she said quietly, "Because I knew you'd come with me." That sentence stayed in my head all the way to the beach. We drove in silence, the windows slightly open, and the cool morning air rushing through the car. When we arrived, the beach was almost completely empty. The sun hadn't risen yet. The ocean looked dark and endless. Emma kicked off her shoes and walked toward the water. I followed. "You know," I said, "most people would call this a terrible idea." "Most people aren't us." She stopped at the edge of the water. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she turned toward me. "Do you remember the first night we met?" I smiled. "You spilled coffee on my favorite shirt. You were staring at your phone. You walked into me. You were standing in the middle of the hallway." I laughed. She smiled. "That was 6 months ago. Feels longer." She looked toward the horizon. "Does it?" There was something different about her voice. Something serious. I stepped closer. "Emma, what's going on?" She took a breath. "I wanted to tell you something." My heart suddenly started beating faster. She looked at me, then quickly looked away. "I've been trying to find the right moment," she said. "For what?" I asked. She smiled nervously. "For you." I didn't understand. She sat down on the sand. I sat beside her. For a while, we watched the ocean. Then Emma finally spoke. "When I first moved in, I thought you were going to hate me." "I didn't. You barely talked to me. I was shy." "You're still shy." "Maybe around you." She looked at me. Our eyes met. Neither of us looked away. And suddenly, I understood. The silence wasn't awkward. It was full of everything we hadn't said. Emma whispered, "That's why I brought you here." "Why?" "Because I wanted to tell you something without 4 walls around us." I swallowed. "What?" She smiled. "I like you." I froze. She continued before I could answer, "Not best friend like you." She looked down at her hands. "I mean, I actually like you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. For 6 months I'd convinced myself that the feelings I had were one-sided. I'd told myself that Emma was simply friendly, that she laughed with everyone like that she looked at everyone the way she looked at me. I had been wrong. "Emma, She looked nervous. If you don't feel the same, that's okay. I just didn't want to keep pretending. I stared at her. Then, I laughed softly. She frowned. Why are you laughing? Because I've been trying to tell myself the exact same thing for months. Her eyes widened. You like me? I nodded. I've liked you for a long time. She smiled. The biggest smile I'd ever seen on her face. Then why didn't you say anything? Because you were my roommate. And I didn't want to ruin everything. She moved slightly closer. You didn't ruin anything. The first light of sunrise appeared behind the horizon. The ocean slowly changed from dark blue to gold. Emma looked at the water. So? We came all this way. I smiled. Are you still planning to swim? She nodded. Absolutely. I stood up and offered her my hand. She took it. We walked toward the water together. The cold waves touched our feet, and Emma laughed. It's freezing. You wanted to swim. You're the one who woke me up. She splashed water toward me. I jumped back. Oh, that's war. She laughed and ran toward the shallow water. I chased her. For the next few minutes we forgot everything. The apartment, the rules, the fear, the awkwardness. Everything. It was just the two of us laughing like children as the sun finally rose over the ocean. Eventually we sat on the sand again. Emma wrapped her arms around her knees. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you scared? I thought about it. Yes. Of me? No. Then what? Of losing you. Her expression softened. You're not going to lose me. How do you know? Because I'm not going anywhere. Against my shoulder. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, maybe the best relationships don't start with perfect timing. I looked at her. Maybe they start with two people being too scared to admit what they already know. She smiled. Exactly. We stayed there until the beach became brighter, and a few early morning joggers appeared in the distance. Eventually, Emma stood. We should go home. I nodded. As we walked back toward the car, she suddenly stopped. What? She pointed at me. One problem. What? We're still roommates. I laughed. That's a pretty big problem. She crossed her arms. New rule. What rule? She smiled. No more pretending we're just roommates. I smiled back. Deal. She started walking again. I followed. Then she turned around. And tomorrow morning. Yes? Wake me up. For what? She grinned. I laughed. That's much more normal. She shook her head. No. What? I want another sunrise. When I realize something. Sometimes the person you're looking for isn't someone you meet in a crowded restaurant, on a dating app, or at some perfect romantic destination. Sometimes they're already sitting across from you at the kitchen table. Sometimes they're the person stealing your coffee, the person leaving their shoes in the hallway, the person who knows when you're having a bad day without you saying a word. And sometimes they're the person who wakes you before sunrise just to finally tell you the truth. That morning, Emma and I went to the beach as roommates. We came home as something more. And for the first time since we'd met, neither of us was afraid of what tomorrow might bring. Because tomorrow wasn't something we had to figure out alone anymore. We had each other. And somehow that made the future feel a lot less frightening.